Hello everyone, my name is Chrisi Pashley and I'm interviewing Louella and Neil today in regards Vindictus Part 3, which is called Battle Lines. Both of you, how are you feeling now the audio adaptation of Vindictus is finally complete?
I think I'm relieved because it was a lot, but more than anything else, I am still blown away that it even happened, that we had so many people willing to spend so much of their personal time contributing to it. It's just, I'm still amazed that it happened, and getting to hear scenes we wrote, characters we wrote come to life is still one of the absolute freaking coolest things I've ever experienced. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a relief to have it done because it was a lot. But I don't think I'll ever get over just being amazed that it actually happened.
Amazed and proud. For one, I didn't think that we'd ever get here at some stages, but we have. And the reason for that would be that it's just a hugely complicated thing to do. But the pride bit comes from the fact that we've had so many people involved, different people from fandom who wanted to get involved in this, and also some professional people as well. And to bring all of them together to produce a truly collaborative piece of work, I think is amazing. So that's the bit that makes me proud.
So who are your favourite characters to write for in the Vindictus novel, and why?
I mean, there were things I liked writing about all of them. But I will have to say there were a couple that when I knew there was a scene coming up where they were in it, I was like, yes!
I like writing for them all, which is a bit of a cop-out answer. But considering that we've created a lot of them apart from the original characters that appear in the story as well, the way that we had to move them on from their original characters as well, so they had to grow. There are some characters I find difficult to write. That doesn't necessarily mean I don't like writing for the character, but for some reason I find writing for Arik a bit difficult, and I find writing for Semele a bit difficult. Obviously, I've got a writing partner who can fill in them gaps.
One of them is very definitely Tavia. She was just always so much fun to write because she's feisty, she has an attitude, and she was honestly, as far as dialogue, by far the easiest one for me to write. And I think it's probably because she is a smart mouth, somewhat an inappropriate sense of humor. And I kind of have that too. So for me, it was always really easy to think, oh, well, what would I say? Oh, I'd say this. I'm not saying Tavia is my alter ego, but as far as how she reacts to things, I have a lot in common with her. So that made it very easy to write her. The other one I, weirdly enough, really loved writing was Arik. And I know that sounds weird. He's this awful, brutal character, but I just found him endlessly fascinating, and I think it's because he is one of those people, yes, he's brutal, yes, he's dark, but he had a very, very set kind of code of honor that he stuck to. And he also had layers to him, this action-oriented military guy, but he studied history, he reads ancient Roman philosophers, he quotes Marcus Aurelius. I always just found him so absolutely fascinating. And I loved getting in his head and kind of thinking how he would react to things. I just found him very, very interesting.
What are you currently working on? And what are the plans for future stories?
So we're currently putting the finishing touches to part 5, which is called The Faction.
We just finished completing the first sort of rough draft of it. Of course, there's a lot of tweaking and editing and things to go on, but we've got it down now. So we're hoping that it will be available, pretty soon.
Now, those who have read Escape to Aristo, which was the follow-up to the Vindictus novel, will know that the Faction are mentioned in there.
And then we have a document where we sort of throw ideas and threads that might need to be picked up. Some of them may never get used, but yeah, we're always throwing around ideas.
So that's what's coming immediately next, hopefully out before the end of the year, is another novella. And then we've got outlines for at least one more story that are being drafted now. So yeah, we're moving on and planning.
Are there plans to make future stories into audios?
Yes, there are. We're hoping to make Escape to Aristo, which is part 4. We're looking to get on with that in 2026.
I think we're always open to whatever we write. If people want to get involved, we would love to hear it brought to life in audio.
What character do you think has developed the most during the story, and what further character developments are planned?
I'd like to think everybody had a little bit of character development, and we really do spend a lot of time talking about that when we're thinking about, okay, how would that impact this character? How would it change them?
Character developments are difficult to talk about, really, because some are subtle, some are take some time, take a longer period, and some are sudden, depending on events and things that happen to them that can force a character to develop in a certain way. So probably Lou Blake starts off in a place where she's thrust herself into this role of leader of this disparate group, has a number of missions that don't quite go according to plan, and then has to develop to lead this group with some confidence. And I think she's battling herself internally as well with a lack of confidence and a bit of anxiety. So I think that she's growing quite nicely, but I think there's so much character development, and when you read the further novellas as well, which hopefully people will, there's more and more that's going on with this interesting group of characters that we've brought together.
Most of the characters had some sort of arc of development during the novel. For me, I think the character that had the most development was Callan. And that's because if you look at who Callan was and what he was when he first came into the novel, he's this clan leader warlord on this very insular planet, doesn't like to deal with outsiders, has an incredibly strict religious and social hierarchy. He has a very, very set, defined place in his world. And all of a sudden, he's taken out of that, and he's put on this spaceship when he comes from a civilization that doesn't like technology, doesn't like artificially enhanced beings. And all of a sudden, he's having to deal with computers. He's having to interact with technology. He's interacting with a mutoid. And even just the regular humans on the crew, they're not people he would have ever had much to do with, given his social station and just the fact he came from a civilization that just wanted nothing to do with outsiders. So he's taken completely out of his natural element and thrust into a situation that's the polar opposite of what he's comfortable dealing with. And he still manages to adapt really well. I think what I liked about Callan in his development was he managed to hold on to the things that were good about his culture that he came up in. He holds on to being honorable, to being loyal, to having the back of people who depend on him. I don't think he'll ever come to absolutely love computers, but he learns how to deal with it. He's very practical. He's like, well, I need to interact with this computer to be able to do my job, so I'm going to do it. And he even learns to at least tolerate working with a mutoid, which was absolutely considered an abomination in his culture. So I think Callan changes a lot, and he changes in a good way. I don't know. I liked his character development. I love Callan anyway. He's one of my favorites.
What will the departure of the last original crew member, i.e. Villa, mean for the rest of the crew? Will he return?
Villa's departure obviously means that that's the last link with the original Blake's 7.
I think it honestly just really comes down to it's graduation time. They got to grow up. They don't really have someone who's been through the experience of being a resistance to the Federation. They don't have his experience to fall back on. And it's all on them now. So I think a lot of it is just, they got to be the grown-ups now.
Will Villa return? Well, he's there. He's on X-Bar. He's there.
I think we both loved Villa so much. We couldn't bear to have him die or anything like that. And so I think even if he never comes back, we like knowing he's on X-Bar.
You never know, so you never say never.
He's there if we ever need him. So whether we actually will ever bring him back, I don't know. But he's there if we need him.
What's next for the Federation plans now that they have conquered Kynessos?
Or the Federation will just go on and on and on, trying to increase their might, I think.
They're leaning really, really heavy on the use of drugs to try to subjugate populations, and they just want to keep expanding their reach.
Which, of course, Commissioner Lamia is in charge of, or is at least the face of, with the Supreme Imperator ultimately in charge of it. We know that there are certain obstacles coming in their way, which aren't necessarily related to our heroes, but you'd have to read up in the future to find out what they are.
They may not be the only game in town. They better be watching their six.
Are there going to be any major links to the original series in future stories?
I mean, we're operating in the same universe, the Blake 7 universe, so there are always going to be callbacks to the original series.
Well, I mean, we obviously had a really big one in Escape to Aristo. The planet Aristo is heavily featured in that.
It's hugely deliberate for fans of the show to be familiar with what's going on and where the stories are set. Now, that doesn't mean there's not going to be new planets and new settings and new races and new operations or whatever, but there will always be in these stories elements within them that will act as, I don't know, Easter eggs. Yeah.
I think we'll always have callbacks to the original show. I think some may be bigger than others, but I don't think we'll ever write anything that doesn't have at least a few callbacks.
Is there anything you haven't tried writing about that you'd like to cover in future stories?
I am a really big horror fan. I especially love sci-fi horror. I love movies like Alien and The Thing and Event Horizon. So I'd like to play around with a little bit of that. Have them encounter something that's maybe very Lovecraftian cosmic horror. Something that's almost beyond the ability of humans to comprehend what it is. Because one of the things I always find fascinating about space and sci-fi is that as bad as some humans are, as bad as the Federation is, there are things that are a hell of a lot worse once you get out in the void of space. So I'd like to tangle with that. I'd like to write that. I think that would be fun. But we'll see. You never know.
I think there are different things that we'd like to touch on in stories. Don't want to just continually use typical sci-fi tropes, but it's a bit of an espionage we're looking at, a bit of spy and agent things going on. I think that would be quite fun. We might at some point try and bring in a bit of something that's a bit horror here or there. So we'll see, but there's certainly a lot of different types of story genres that we could try and bring into the mix alongside science fiction, which is primarily what we're writing here.
Thanks so much, both of you, and thanks everyone for listening.